Well, I'll just sort of start us off. I'm Samantha Shue with Origin Point Mortgage. Shannon and I do this real estate investing seminar. We've been doing it for, I don't even know how many years, 3-4 years, probably 4 years. We were doing it in person and would have like 25 people in this tiny room, and you'd never even think about doing that again these days. But during COVID, we quickly went online, and we used to do it like every quarter, and now we're doing it once a month. And it really turned into a really great series where once a quarter we talk about the market, what's going on last quarter type thing. We do a comparison of different properties. And then in the other last month of the quarter, we usually discuss a book. And so Shannon is so great. She always picks out some amazing books for us all to read. So today is our book club. We're talking about the Quitter's Manifesto, which we'll cover in a few minutes. So I work for Origin Point Mortgage. We're a relatively new mortgage company. I've been in the business over 15 years. And I'm in the top 5% of loan originators in the country. I own my own home with my 2 beautiful girls who are 8 and 11, and my wonderful husband. I love Belgian waffles, my absolute favorite, and I can't wait to have them next week with my family for Thanksgiving. And I own my own house, but really when reading this book, all I could think about was I really need to just do it already and invest in something. I used to own a condo that we sold before we had kids. And so that's where I've sort of my perspective when reading this book. That's what I was thinking. Shannon.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shannon Shue. I'm a real estate agent at Keller Williams. My office is in the Marina Del Rey office area, which is right next to Venice Beach and Santa Monica. I'm in the top 1.5% of agents across the nation. And I'm in Gary Keller's top agent mastermind. And when it comes to investing, like I'm really big on investing. I talk about investing a lot, but really what allows me to invest is becoming a successful real estate agent. So if I didn't have the money from this job, it's not really a job. I feel like I can't believe I get paid to do this because I really love what I do. But because of that, I then invest. I parlay most of what I make as a real estate agent into real estate so that I can retire early and then I can have passive income. And I know that's what every agent I ever speak to, and then most of the people that I meet as an agent that say, you know, Shannon, I want to start getting financially free. I want to invest in real estate. It's the number one thing they want to do is they want to get to a place where they are not dependent on their job, which is essentially what the book is about. I have 16 units. They are not syndications. So I am not currently involved in any syndication, although I think I might pull the trigger in 2023 and get involved with the syndication because I'll jump on that bandwagon, but I'm not on the crypto bandwagon. I also have a self-storage facility, also not syndicated. That's not far from Lake Tahoe. All of that was just built sort of one at a time, starting with something small, like my first condo in Colorado, which I still own. And then I've now 1031 exchanged into bigger opportunities. I love Vietnamese spring rolls. It's my favorite thing. I go out and look. I mean, if it's on the menu, I want to have it. And I do enjoy rock climbing quite a bit. So I'll go through the 18 tools. So they go through 18 tools in the book about quitting because it is about prepping. It is about getting ready. I picked 4. Sam picked 5. Number 1 is acknowledge the truth, just like the truth about quitting, understanding the risk and rewards about quitting, asking the failure questions, like what failure looks like to you, accepting the realistic worst case scenario, because I think a lot of times we get stuck in the worst case scenario, which paralyzes us from making a step towards doing something bigger or taking that bigger risk. Follow the fear. Which really means like, you know, not only get comfortable with the fear of making some mistakes as you go into something new, but also allow follow it so that it teaches you something so you get more used to being outside of your comfort zone. Check the suck meter. I'll go through that one later. Weave your financial net, which means you really just want to make sure you really take clear inventory of your incomes and your debts so you know exactly how much you need to create that freedom number, the number that allows you to not have to work. So when you do work, you're really working for fun. You're not working for pay, which you can use, but decide what success looks like, build your plan B, gather your quit team, which we picked that one, so that'll be fun. It's really how to make sure you are surrounded with enough people to ensure that you have people to bounce ideas off of when you feel stuck. Plan for obstacles, failure proof your mindset, your mind daily. Find the smallest possible step. Sometimes it's so, the elephant is too big to eat in one bite, which it would be for anybody, but we really need to bite size what risk looks like into small pieces every day. And we do not have to eat the whole elephant in 1 week or 1 month. We are just going to eat the elephant over time. Dip your toes in, which is just really about getting started with momentum. Sometimes we get into analysis paralysis where we analyze and analyze and analyze and analyze, and then years go by and we're still in the same analysis paralysis. And if it is related to real estate, a lot of times the market has changed. And so we continually think we're analyzing the change in the market rather than actually just making the leap. Focus on the process, which we'll go over later. I think we should have a process for what we want to get accomplished, not just a very lofty goal. Be aggressively patient. Use constraints to commit. We're going to go over that one, which is pretty cool. And stop not quitting. That was the double negative I kept saying at the end. Like, oh, what? We don't go through that one, but yeah, those are the 18 tools. Just curious, because Rebecca and Chelsea, you guys had taken a look at the book. Did any of those 18 stick out for you?
I even thought about it further because I don't want to be afraid of failure. I assume I will fail at times and that I would use that failure to better myself, right? So just really, it's like making sure you're not in that state of comfort because you're not moving forward, and they all kind of go into that, mindset of moving forward and not feel like you're gonna, or being okay with jumping off the cliff, right?
Right. Yeah. Rebecca, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it. But one thing that I really was like, yeah, when I was listening to it, was the find the smallest possible step. So like what you're saying about the analysis paralysis, man, that so much of my life is made up of that, and I think it's really common, but just really getting into the like, all right, well, what can I do right now that will move me a little bit forward instead of being at a standstill and waiting, even if it's just like a tiny little, any movement forward is movement. And then that's what creates your momentum versus, you're like, it's inertia, right? You're either like sitting still or you're already moving. So that really stuck out to me while I was listening to it, to be like, you just take a couple little steps towards it. I've wanted to invest for a really long time. I know it's not rocket science, but there is definitely, a science to it, or like numbers and stuff involved. So even this is a step forward.
Awesome. Yeah. And I always say with the real estate investing, one of the things you can do to start moving the needle forward as an agent is to go out and look at homes for yourself. We look at homes for others, or we sell homes for others, but we oftentimes don't look at places that are like, oh, that duplex kind of interests me. I haven't gotten approved. Never mind. Oh, I can't make the open house. I'm too busy. And then we can't get even in the cockpit of like looking at something that could be a possibility for ourselves.
Well, and I think another thing is like, we're already like, our job is lead generating for homes to sell, So if we're already going to be doing that, why don't we lead generate for homes to buy
for ourselves?
And I always have that it's in my mind. And yet I'm like, oh, but I just got to like sell some houses now, so
yeah.
I want to put that in my plan.
Yes.
I just want to say one thing that really inspires me now is that one of the agents on my team has bought a few houses in the last year and she's single. And one is an Airbnb short-term rental, really small. And she's already had 2 clients purchase homes because they were moving here, stayed in her Airbnb, knew she was an agent.
Oh my God.
So there's all the layers, right, that we can think of.
Yeah, that goes even deeper. Like, yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, so many things can come of it. And so that's amazing. So we're gonna go through some of our favorite ones. We're just gonna go tool by the tool number. Tool number 4 was accept the realistic worst case scenario. I think that a lot of times we play the worst case scenario in our head, and then we get more attached to like the fear of that thing happening, that it keeps us in our box. So quitting your job is risky, and then obviously any risk involves any risk that we take in our lives is probably a big life change. So remembering that the worst reasonable thing that can happen, if you can get comfortable with that and truly accept that scenario, it'll enable you to get comfortable with this in advance, so that when you move down the road a little bit, instead of playing it in your mind as a fear, you play it in your mind as like, yeah, that could happen, but I've gotten comfortable with like that. I've accepted that, versus I haven't gotten comfortable with that, and that scares me, so I don't want to do anything else. So I think this is very fitting for all of us here, and myself included. Like, I've gotten a little comfortable. I took a lot of risks in building a portfolio, and I'm now looking at new things, and it's a little uncomfortable. I say no a lot, and I sometimes say no because like, I don't know, it's not something I know. And I'm like, ha, listen to me. It's not something I know. That's why you tried looking at it. So number 6 is check your suck meter. And so I thought this is a very interesting one. Don't get too comfortable with wanting to invest in real estate and not having to grind the same way, even if it sucks. So you really, like, if you want to invest in real estate, and you have to grind and work in a different way in order to get there, that the grind might suck, but the reward is worth it, right? And then in addition to this check your suck meter is, you don't want to get stuck in your situation that may suck so much that you complain about it, but then you don't make any changes, right? Instead, you just get comfortable with, it kind of sucks, but it doesn't suck so bad, I'll just do it for now. So in the future, how much will regret suck? And so there are some questions here I thought I'd ask you guys. What would it be like to never achieve the income that you've always felt you could? And then what would it be like as a person if you could keep doing this for another decade, like doing what you're doing now for another decade without pulling the trigger? And just like, it's a popcorn style. It's, I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say, but I don't want to put anyone on the spot either. Oops.
Well, I want to say about the regret, thing, this, how much will regret suck? I took pictures, or I had pictures taken of my house. I was going to put it on the market in March.
Oh,
A model match sold for 1.35. My model match, that wasn't as, I had a little couple better amenities in it. And we didn't end up doing it. Won't get into the whys. But then, like, there's a model match on the market now where I'm at that is very similar to mine, that has been sitting on the market for over 3 months now. They've reduced to 1.225 and it's still not moving. And I'm like, oh, I could have got the coulda, woulda, shoulda. And it is, and the fear was like, and like, I'm in real estate, I've moved before, but the fear was like, oh my, not going to find the house, all the things. So, that sucks. But that's like $200,000.
Yeah.
Couple of months that, and look, it's up and down markets. I never had it, it was just on paper, right? So it's not like too much of a bummer, but it's a bummer.
Yeah.
And
Jonathan, please.
So there's always a reason not to do whatever, whether it's getting married, having kids, selling your house. You can always talk yourself out of that. And probably the one piece of advice that moved my wife and I to finally pull the trigger was a client. And all he did his entire life is buy homes and rent them out. And now he's unloading some of his homes. And he said, it's not a get rich quick scheme, but you need to pull the trigger. You're not getting any younger. You need to jump in and do it now. And my wife and I'm 48 years old. We're like, yeah, we need to do that. And so him just kind of put pressure on us. Like, if you're going to do it and don't look back, is what really kind of got us over the hump. And we ended up buying our first one from him that my wife had sold to him over 10 years ago. And, and now when I look back at the time, we put a lot of money down, and there was a lot of unknowns, but it turned out that was good that we did this a few years ago. And so long story short is, don't look back with regret about timing. You just got to pull the trigger at some point. And if you're in real estate, you're going to see deals. They'll fall in your lap. The biggest thing is having the money there to pull the trigger on it, because we just come across stuff, and you'll find something that'll be a good deal.
Well, I'll tell you, you know what? I've never bought a property that I did not list, or I did not have the direct connection.
Wow.
The house I'm in right now was past client house. The house we had before that we listed. The house we had before that we listed. It's, I like that one.
Wow. Okay, Rebecca, getting out of your comfort zone is buying something on the MLS or direct from the seller.
Well, so we have an opportunity. It's like, I don't believe in, in like coincidences. Like, I believe more in synergy, or what, well, not synergy, but like a synchronicity.
Yeah.
We have an opportunity right now to buy an investment property that with some seller financing, with 30% seller financing. So we're looking to put that together right now and just kind of running the numbers. And I'm sure that we're going to buy that, because especially with like the rate buy downs happening right now, and when, there's just some options. So it's so funny that we're talking about it, because I'm like, well, now's the time, because we're going to do that.
Yeah.
So hopefully by the time we finish whatever we're doing, we'll close escrow on it.
Fantastic. Yeah. Wow. Oh, anybody else? Tracy, Chelsea, or Kimberly, do you guys have any thoughts on how much regret would suck?
Regret would totally suck. I think that we're moving into, the market's been like crazy, as we all know. And I think we're moving into a time of great opportunity that is following a time of great, commissions. So I think it's a really smart time to be looking for those opportunities, whether they turn out to be for us, or whether they turn out to be for our buyer clients, whether they turn out to be, other agents in our community, but to prioritize ourselves and our future and not wanting it to suck, and looking for those opportunities. And I love what Rebecca said about, seller financing opportunity.
Yes.
I think that more and more, we would not have seen that back in the, you must put 20% down and you get a 2.99% interest rate. But now sellers who need to sell are going to say, oh, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and do some seller financing. Then we could put less down. So there's some good opportunities coming. I just had one that my husband was like, no, like it's not the right opportunity for us. But it was a triplex that was, my clients were like, we just want it to sell. We're going to, like, we don't care if we sell it lower than what you're saying it could sell for. We just want it to sell. So after he and I discussed it, I went to my team and said, I'm going to my husband to do this. He doesn't want to if one of you do not buy it. And so another agent on my team bought it with an investor. That's another, I think, opportunity for us too, is to talk with our investors, know who our cash investors are. They purchased the property probably about $200,000 under market. And they're doing the front house as, standards 30-day, they'll probably do a year lease. And then the back two duplex, they're going to do it as short-term rental. And it's one of those things, like, I don't do tenants. I love selling. I have 3 kids. the idea of taking on any kind of tenants sounds horrible to me. But he went to the investor and said, listen, I will oversee the construction work. I will oversee, you know, turning this into an Airbnb, all the management of that. If we can go into this as partners, I think he's a half owner, but he only put like 30,000 down. The other investor was all cash and he's running it. And so they kind of have this, and I think he ended up taking out a home equity loan on a property that she already owned that was a much lower percentage. So he actually has some equity in the property through a much lower percentage APR source. So anyway, I think there's a lot of creativity we can do. And that's why when Shannon said, hey, you want to join my book club? I was like, yes, we need to be prepared for the opportunities, and doing a little learning and encouraging together, I think is a really great thing to do. And I think the time will be right for us.
Yes. Awesome. Awesome. Well, Josiah, did you want to say anything, by the way? Or
No, it's okay. Everything is good. Sounding good.
Okay. So weave your financial net. I had so many things I wanted to build for this, but really it is about getting really clear about your financial freedom number, which is to get real with your assets, your incomes, and access to credit. Decide your burn rate. So whatever you need, I mean, as agents, we run a business and then we also have our personal lives. And so we need to make sure that we're covering both our personal and our business side at the beginning, because I think that gives us enough buffer. So if let's say we can live off, our business is $10,000 a month and our personal expenses are, I'm just going to pick really easy round numbers, but $5,000 a month. So that's 15K between both. Then you want to make sure that you can get to a passive income number of 15, even though when you quit your job, you don't need to work your $10,000 per month burn rate business. You still may need, may need a little extra because you don't want to you won't necessarily stop working your business. If you truly are going to stop working your business, you can really aim for 5K a month. So, also right now is a great time. So Kimberly mentioned it, and I know you, like Rebecca, you're looking at seller carry. Like, what access do you have to loans, HELOCs, and credits cards that will give you liquidity so that you can make whatever the loan options are outside of traditional lending, which we know we always have that as an option, but what other sources of capital can we get access to that's not our money? Right? Even though we've all had great years, sometimes it's always good to have additional capital that we have at ready to use that isn't even our money, and doesn't have to be necessarily another investor's money, but those are people, private lenders are great, which are private people with money. So just think about weaving that financial net tight enough as you continue to look at more and more investment opportunities, especially as we move into this market, because there are going to be opportunities galore.
I want to say something that just popped into my head as you're talking. And you know, it occurs to me like everybody on here is in the buying and selling of real estate, servicing buyers and sellers still. And what you said about, I wrote down like, who are our cash investors? Who has the money? I did a flip a couple of years ago. One of our local lenders in town, he partners with agents all the time. Agents bring him a deal. He does all the financing. The agent does all the work in the deal. They split the profits 50-50, super smart. And he's just like one person that does that. But it occurred to me like, man, what a great reach out to every single person in my database right now to call them and say, I'm gearing up to work with my investors and investing myself in the next, 18 months or whatever. Do you have cash? Like, do you do any kind of like financing or, do you know what I mean? Like, educate your people who have cash, because there's a lot of them out there, about financing real estate deals. Some people may not have really had the opportunity to do that. They would if they could, but they didn't. And then you're also getting, when I'm talking to those 8 clients or, my center of influence and saying, are you interested in this? Then they might go, well, I would also like to invest or whatever. And you're just creating more potential clients. Yeah, more conversations. So it's like kind of can work twofold. Maybe you'll find
Exactly.
money or people who have money that will back you on it. And then maybe you'll find people who want to buy and sell investment properties because they know you're focused on investment properties specifically.
Yeah. 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 Sam.
All right. Well, just touching back on the last tool, just to tell you from like a lending point of view, if you go to your banks right now, your B of A's, your Wells Fargo's, they do not have equity lines that they're giving away. So you really should go to credit unions. They're really the ones. I work with a lot of credit unions and more than happy to help you guys on a HELOC. But definitely don't go to your bank first. It's just a big giant waste of time. Anyway, tool 10, gather your quit team. So Shannon touched on this a little bit. So before you quit, you want to make sure you have all the people in place to kind of keep you stable, because you will find obstacles and all of these people are here to help you. So stakeholders would be like someone like your spouse, a good friend that may be equally invested with you in this, so that your success is their success, and so they'll be able to help guide you. Also talking about people to guide you are mentors and coaches. So as all of you guys are trying to figure out more opportunity, and you're also positive, and I just love the energy today. I just recently signed up for a new coach myself, because I feel the same way, that right now is the time to really invest in our businesses and try to figure out, to kind of re-systematize, right? We've had systems that have been working sort of over the last several years. We've been so busy, but how can we improve upon those? And then have mentors who've done what we all want to do, right? And go to them and ask them the questions and help have you stay on course. And then partners, which has also come up a couple times, like thinking about who can you do this quitting with, right? And that way, maybe it's not as scary if you have somebody who's partnered with you in this investment. If we're all talking about buying an investment property, then it's like, okay, then I can go to my partner and we're going to succeed together. So the main thing here is you are not alone, and we should all just take that step.
Yeah.
Okay, was this one yours, Shannon, or was mine?
This was yours.
Okay, I couldn't remember. Okay, so plan for obstacles. Envision what you can of what we're doing. So if it's buying a new place, whether it's to live in ourselves or to invest in, what if it costs more, right? So thinking about, okay, having a little bit more in our budgets. What if it takes longer if you're thinking of flipping something, right? It's always going to take longer than you expect. And I always look at you, Shannon, like you've had so much success, but I know you've also had a lot of obstacles, right? And you get through them, and it only makes you smarter. But knowing that we will have obstacles, right? This is not just smooth sailing, and smooth sailing in your desk job right now isn't getting you where you want to be. And so we will definitely have obstacles, and we have all the support of everyone here and of your own people to help you through. So what if you're only half successful, right? What does that look like? So trying to kind of get through looking, what it's easy, like Jonathan was saying, to have an obstacle and just be like, oh, then forget it. Like, I'm not going to even do this. But if you can envision it and say, okay, what kind of person am I going to be if I invest in this property and I can't find a renter, right? Who am I going to be then, right? Am I going to be frustrated? Am I going to be encouraged that, the market's going to change? Maybe I flip it to an Airbnb. And who's been through this before? Who do I admire who's gone through tough things? Is it this exact same obstacle, or is it other obstacles where you're like, wow, they got through that, I could get through this mini obstacle, right? And to have some perspective, right? And then what would you advise a friend if they were going through this? So all of these little things, and there's a workbook, sort of little pages in this book, if you haven't read it already, that kind of help you pencil it out and say like, okay, I can probably do this. It's not as scary as I may have thought.
For sure. Yeah, by the way, planning for obstacles, just in my experience as a real estate agent, like I have, well, there's been some great success stories as an investor and as an agent, but I will tell you, I have quite a few didn't work out. I have sued more than one business partner, and one of them stole money, won the lawsuit, but the guy's like, I don't have any money. And so we've already done a financial background check to see, and he hides it. So we can't collect. Yes. And the other lawsuit was for a contractor who didn't finish the flip. So we had to hire somebody else. We fired him. But we want to go after the fact that he left the job and cost us time. So he's trying to settle for 25% of what we lost. So
Oh my God.
yeah. So I mean, and maybe I thought to myself, maybe I'll just take the 25%. It's better than nothing. I mean, the other guy, I don't have any money, right? So, but again, like these are things that I have learned in partnering in some situations that were just really terrible partnership ideas at the forefront. So I often say I have a blog post. It's like when you should partner. And it pretty much, you get to the bottom, you're like, seems like I should be doing this on my own. But maybe it's a little bit of me being jaded, but I think it's a little bit of also just the blog post is about asking yourself the right questions. Like, are you just doing this because you don't want to be alone? Are you doing this just because you like this person? Are you doing this because they have money and you don't? Like, be very clear about why, right? So yeah.
That's a great warning. I think that, we're talking about big numbers in California real estate. So you sometimes got the investor who has the cash, but do you actually know them? Do you know how they handle their lives, how they're in touch?
Do you want to get in bed with them? Right? It can be really ugly.
Lovely and beautiful. Where just listening to Shannon, I'm thinking, I have a contractor that's been asking me to like invest with him, but I feel there's something that's holding me back where my other like go-to contractor is amazing. I know him, I know his family. He would be a much better partner. Or the investor, another cash investor that's always saying we could do something together. And I don't know, I just don't know him well enough. So those are good warning signs. I'm going to read your blog post.
Yeah. It's all about partnership, and it's all based on personal experience. So yeah, I highly recommend, and I'm happy to chat with any of you guys about it too. Catch me on a day where I'm a little jaded and I'm like, oh no, it's a terrible idea. I'm sorry, please continue. Tell me the rest of the story. But yes.
Okay, so it seems to me that other people like this tool the best, which is just focus on one small step to get you there, right? You could break this journey into many, many, many steps, but if you could just take one little one and you just push it forward just a little bit, it'll make you feel so great, and then you'll get a little bit closer to that big goal. So it was interesting. He said, quitting isn't a giant leap, it's a step, right? And it's a step with multiple steps, part of it. So I thought maybe before, because we're almost done with the call here, but before we end, maybe our last question, Shannon, could be what's the first step that everyone's going to take? Because I think it would be a good idea to have like an action.
A takeaway, an actionable item.
Yes.
Yeah. Should we answer it now, Sam, or should we go to the last slide? I think we only have one slide left.
Oh, good. I couldn't see what we have next. So yeah, we could go around the room real quick.
Let's go around the room.
All right.
Chelsea, you're up.
Sounds good. Like I said, I'm pretty new at this. And so talking about partnership first, that's why I joined a team. So I'd have the mentors that have the experience that I want to draw from. So that has helped a lot. And in that, our business planning this for 2023 includes personal planning too. So my team leader, one of my goals is buying an investment property. So that is something that she also holds me accountable for. So if it's like, I want to exercise 3 times a week, it's on my plan just as much as I want to sell 2 to 3 units a month, and breaking it down of how we do that. So I already am connected with the lender we'll use, but what's tricky is my income doesn't count yet because I've only been self-employed for a year. So, but we still have run the numbers and we know what we can do. So if that deal comes up, we can jump on that, and we, instead of saying, oh, I can't do it, we know what we can do, even though there will be only a few things that come up. So so I'm just trying to stash as much money as possible so we can just have a bigger down payment. And luckily we got, before I quit my job that I had for 17 years, we pulled a HELOC out. And so we have that we haven't used for a backup situation if we need that for down payment, if that really good deal comes up. So really it's me just continuing to look at the MLS and network to find that property. But if I can't find one within a year and when my income counts, maybe I'll have to buy 3, in 12 months to catch up.
Yeah, you're gonna pick up the one you're gonna buy this year. That's great.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to share your small first step?
I'll share. I've actually gone through this. I left a very well-established, good-paying job, and looking at the last item, quitting isn't a giant leap. I can attest to that. All the time that I spent ahead of time was the 6 to 12 months before I made that leap. Handing in my resignation was the easiest part because all the work had been done before. So that was actually, it was just a series of small steps to move forward over time. And by the time I put that in, that was a quick step. And then I wanted to go back to number 10, your team. One thing that was helpful for me is not just the people who were on my team, but the people who I left out. My dad, I didn't tell him I was going to do this at all because I know he would have been well-intentioned. And he's like, well, have you thought about this? You're leaving this to take this risk. And I knew that wouldn't have been productive. So I purposefully did not, he had no idea what I was doing. Because again, I know he has my best interest at heart, but it wouldn't have been helpful to have that kind of a, kind of a Debbie Downer. Because of course, I've gone over all the negatives and the things that would not work. I didn't need someone on my team that was going to
Pull you down.
pull me down. Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. Tracy, Kimberly, Rebecca, small step towards getting to your quit job, even if you love it, even if you love your job.
I realized that was the book we were doing. I don't want to quit. Like I see these agents that are 75 and still getting all dressed up and having fun. It's like so tiny here. It's like a little family. So I don't have that on my projection, but I think being financially stable and having great security is certainly the goal. And also I do have a chronic, scary illness that could become a bigger problem, as time goes on. So I don't think I would ever look at it as like, I want to quit, but rather let's make sure that we're creating, enough wealth that we get to the point where life is, but if I wanted to, I could quit, or I could leave and travel for a year and then come back and grow some roots again in real estate.
Yeah.
So my first step is right here, being with you guys and chatting about this.
Awesome. Anybody else want to share?
I see my a step to take is in identifying the team, finding out who is that for me, and then building that into my business plan. Aside from whatever, like what is our real estate, basically my business plan end goal is usually built around units sold, volume, GCI or whatever is our primary focus. But adding in the investment piece into it for myself and for then my team and what they want to accomplish and achieve. I know, like I introduced you to Charles, I know he got into real estate because he eventually wants to not sell, but be an investor. So what does that look like in a plan to move forward? That's what the first thing I think to do.
Nice.
Even though that was 2 things.
You have 2. 2 is very manageable. Tracy, do you want to share? Okay, Tracy, you can share at the end. You're there.
Okay. My first step is just to make a plan starting for January. So I have ideas, but I don't have a written plan. help. So I guess that would be my tiny first step.
Awesome. You got it, Tracy.
All right.
What? Okay. There's no content in this slide that I just made. I copied it from somewhere else and it does not seem to be here. So tool 15 is the last tool we're going to go over, is focus on the process. Is what I was sharing here is that as a real estate agent, particularly, we have multiple processes in which to run our business, but a lot of times we don't have processes for investing in real estate. Like, we don't have, like, what is a stress test? Like, what is a good, we see good deals sometimes for our clients, but what we may want may be different when it comes to something we are going to buy for ourselves. And so a lot of times we need to send ourselves through our own buying process. Like, what we should be our own buyer. We are the buyer. We also are the agent, but to treat it like a buyer consultation, to say, like, what am I looking for in returns? What am I going to do with this? And I love real estate agents have way more ideas. I'm going to Airbnb. No. And then if it doesn't work out, I'll probably just have tenants in it. Well, this would be kind of good. Maybe my mother-in-law can live in the bottom unit because she can't do stairs anymore. I'm like, okay, we have 3 different options. And mother-in-law doesn't sound like it's going to cash flow very much, but it's a very altruistic thing to do for your mother-in-law. So, like, I think that sometimes it's getting clarity over exactly what process we're going to use to find what we're looking for. Because if she's going to live in the downstairs unit, it sounds like a duplex, right? Or, oh, you want to convert the garage. Okay, so now you're adding an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit. So I think a lot of times the process for ourselves is we need to clarify and get very clear about what we're looking for and be a good client, because we know we've all had a client that's wanted like 9 things, and we're just trying to rein you in. We're just trying to execute 1, maybe 2. We can combine 2 of these ideas together, but we can't combine all 9 in the purchase. So, well, that was what was written there. It was about being a good client, being your own good client. Oh, whoops. Sam, I guess we had another.
I
We're
had
at the
one more, which
one.
is give yourself some constraints, right? So you could commit. So just like Chelsea was saying, like, if you say you're going to go to the gym 3 days a week, then let's find the gym today, right? If you don't already have one, or if you have a gym trainer that you're paying, however much money per session, if you don't go, you're like, shoot, right? It's easy to not go to the gym because it's just like, it's $100 a month, no big deal. But if you don't go to the trainer, then you have to tell him the next day why you didn't go, and you've already spent the money to pay him because you still have to pay him even if you don't show. So it's trying to kind of like get some teeth into this goal so that you can keep it moving forward. So hire the coach that's going to cost you the money to keep you moving forward. I think anytime you tell 3 friends, like, I just switched companies this year. And so just telling them was like, okay, I now have to do it, right? I've already committed to doing it. So anything that you guys can do to kind of get that commitment started. Moving forward, because I know we're right at 1 o'clock. The last point, which I think was great, which everybody loves a quitter, right? We always say, oh no, you shouldn't quit. Or that your dad, Jonathan, says, don't quit doing what you're doing. Because everybody loves when you don't give up on yourself. And I'm sure now that your dad's looking at you and saying, wow, good for you. You really made a good choice. I'm so glad I didn't open my mouth. And you didn't tell me until you've had the success, because it's not that he didn't think it was a good idea for you to quit. He just didn't see the other side.
Right. We'll skip this one just because I think we've had a chance to chat quite nicely.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, everybody. We will have this again Thursday, the 15th at noon. The last one I think will be a recap of the market, and we look back at 12 months. It will be kind of a little bit more LA focused, but we always embed national and California numbers in there, because I think it helps tell the story. So we know that, is LA doing any different than the rest of the country? And usually the answer is no.
About the